It's a somewhat exciting day today because I got my little antis out of the shed in the garden. They've been hibernating since about March, so around 6 months. March, what am I talking about? October. And they've been in there for about 6 months up to now, which is at the end of March. And I've got them out. I haven't looked at them yet. I thought it would be cool to film it and just see how each of those individual colonies are going, because there's quite a few in there. And we've also got the formicarium, which I built in previous video, and we need to choose somebody to go in there. So let's get them out and see what we're dealing with. So I'm hoping this isn't too stressful for them, because they've not really seen much light the past 6 months. This is my Formica fusca colony. And I did have some concerns because these guys, the queen wasn't really laying any eggs. And it appears like the same is happening still. I don't see any eggs in here. So another colony here, but similarly, I don't see any eggs. I mean, everyone looks healthy enough. There's just no eggs. And the final Formica fusca colony, once again, we just don't see any eggs in there. Alright, so there's several Lasius niger colonies here. And from the looks of it, they all have eggs. My worry is though, and I don't know how well you can see it. I'm not going to move the camera, but I'll zoom in on this one. The water has started kind of protruding through the cotton wool into the test tube. Now I don't know whether that's something that's happened as a result of the movement today, or whether it's happened over time. I hope it's over time, because then it'll have given them a chance to adjust. Maybe it's not a big issue, but my bigger concern is I don't want it to keep leaking, because it's going to be quite difficult for them to move from these test tubes into new test tubes, obviously. But yeah, as you can likely see, it's a little bit waterlogged in all of them. But we will address that problem once we've had a look at the other guys. Similar issues here with 3 Lasius flavus colonies. Yeah, okay, 2 out of 3 have been laying eggs, which is positive. I mean, we've got to remember as well, they've been in hibernation. They're not going to lay as many eggs, and they've had no proteins, which will increase the egg production for the queen as well. They all need feeding, which I will need to do. But, touch wood, we've had no deaths, or no dead queens, which is great. Now, before I come on to the colony that I've had the longest, which should be the biggest, we need to kind of establish what we're going to be doing with these, because obviously I don't need to have 10 ant colonies. Off the bat, I think we need to get each colony into a new test tube, which is going to be really difficult. But that water leaking doesn't look like a good sign, and I don't think they'll survive if that keeps happening. I've noticed a few casualties, which probably is a result then of the movement today. But we will rehouse them as best we can. The ones that haven't been successful in laying any eggs, I will likely put back outside in the shed with the test tube open, just to give them a chance to move to a new area themselves and maybe have more luck out in their natural habitat. But the ones that seem to be laying, we'll keep hold of. So providing I can rehouse them okay, we'll keep hold of them for now, and they can kind of live in those test tubes for the time being. It's going to take me a while to try and rehouse these guys, so I'm probably going to do that off camera, because it's not the easiest thing to film. But once that's done, we'll pop some food in there for them, give them some honey and some protein, and then make a decision who's going to go into the new formicarium. And this is my largest colony of Lasius niger ants. It's fairly established now, as you can see. Don't know how many's in here, probably like 1,000 maybe. But they all seem pretty happy. There's the brood chamber. I'll get some nice macro shots, because I appreciate this probably isn't picking it up very well. They're all huddled around the queen, which is quite sweet, bless them. And what we'll do is I'll attach an outwell to this, just so they've got some exploratory space as well. I've got one tucked away somewhere that we can set up now that they're out of hibernation. Okay, that was really difficult. What I had to do to sort the water issue out was get this syringe and kind of probe it in there and draw the water into the syringe just to dry things out a bit, which seems to have worked. And I've now kind of set those nests up, left them in the same test tube because I just can't move them. I tried it with one and it just wasn't a success. I ended up having to dump them into one of these. Yeah, there's just no way I can transfer them. They need to move on their own. So they'll have to stay in the same test tubes for now. I think the water might have been leaking because the test tubes were like at an angle, possibly. So I've kind of propping them up now just to try and stop the water pulling through the cotton. So I just done a bit of quick research. Apparently the Formica fusca species can potentially cohabit, and they do have more than one queen, and they're not territorial. So I think what I might do is try the Formica fusca species in the formicarium, just because they are a bit bigger. The only disadvantage is their colony size isn't that big compared to Lasius flavus, which can get up to about 100,000 apparently. The Formica fusca can only get up to about 5,000 if it's really well fed. But maybe that's not a bad thing. Do we really want a million ants, 100,000 ants or whatever? Probably not. I don't think they'd fit in that formicarium. So just to play on the safe side, let's go with the Formica fusca, and maybe we'll even try just combining them, putting them all in there. If they can cohabit, brilliant. And I guess the other thing is, if it doesn't work out with those guys, well, by that time the Lasius flavus should be a bit bigger in size, so we can then maybe move them in. We'll see. I was a bit worried just because of the lack of brood from the Formica fusca, but again, from what I've read, they don't lay brood and they don't hibernate with their brood, so it might just be that now that they're back in the warm and they'll be getting protein from the feeder insects I'll be giving them, that might then spur them on to start laying eggs, because they were before, they just kind of stopped coming towards the winter. Alright, so we've got our 3 candidate colonies here. Really hope they get on. If the reports are true, they should do. And I'm not going to spend too long on this because I can see they're a bit skittish already and they are known as being a quite shy species, and they don't like too much noise and aggravation, so we won't bother them too long, but they will just have to put up with being dumped into their new nest. But fingers crossed things will work out. Let's get them in, and then over time hopefully we can see them flourish. Okay, hopefully we can get some good shots of this. It's going to be a little bit awkward because we're either going to have to dump them in, or I might just have to leave the test tubes in there for them to kind of work things out. I'm going to put some starter burrows in here, just to drop a few hints on where to go and where to start their new nest. There's a lot of commotion. I'll try and get them in quick so they don't start running out of the top. Okay, right, we're losing a few, so we're going to have to close this off. Just until we get things under control a bit. We'll open that up again to remove the test tubes at some point. I think for now we'll leave it, and hopefully they will move in on their own accord. Wow, well that was pretty stressful getting those guys in there, but it's done now, so we just have to hope that they get on okay and can establish themselves in the new formicarium. We'll keep an eye on them, I'll give you some updates over time, but until the next time guys, thank you for taking the time out of your day to watch this video, and stay safe. I will see you on the next one. Quick update, I thought I'd just pop it in here while I'm doing the editing. So a little while after I put them in, they did seem to be fighting. They weren't really getting on, so I assumed that the colonies weren't going to be able to be housed together. Fortunately, the next morning there wasn't many casualties, but they had all retreated into their own test tube, so I was able to remove 2 of the colonies and just leave the 1 in there. I don't know if it's misinformation or maybe they just needed a bit more time to acclimatise, but I didn't want to risk it. I don't think it's very nice to have them go to war with each other like that. So I took the decision to take the opportunity while it was there and get the other guys out, and they'll remain in test tubes for the foreseeable future until we decide what to do. Maybe we'll release them back into the wild and just keep the 1 colony of the Formica fusca guys in there for observation.